Hello and welcome to the class. Today we will talk about how to build a simple project, connect to a database using MySQL and Microsoft Access, and how to preview our application in the web browser. First, let's build a simple project using Microsoft Access as an example. Let's pick a test database. Let's choose the tables make, cars, and users. And let's just build a project ignoring all other settings. And now we can preview the project in the browser. As you can see, it takes less than a minute to build a very simple project right out of the box. Now let's take a look at a slightly more complicated example. With using Microsoft Access, you don't have to install any additional components. You can simply connect to it and build your project as you just witnessed. However, if you're using MySQL, you will have to install MySQL on your computer. To get MySQL, we will download a software called XAMPP, which includes a few components. It includes the Apache web server, MySQL database, PHP, and a few other components. Now let's install XAMPP with the default settings. Now XAMPP is installed, and let's go back to PHP Runner and connect to our database. By default, the username is going to be root, and we will leave the password blank since XAMPP doesn't require the password when you're working with MySQL locally. So now why don't we create a new project and choose cars template, for example. And now we can connect to MySQL database, and let's create a new database within MySQL. So cars will be our new database, and PHP Runner automatically will connect all of the tables from the cars template. Now let's just build the project and see what we have. So now I can preview my application in the browser, and as you can see, everything works. We have our cars template. Now let's take a look at the URL of the application. By default, PHP Runner uses built-in browser, which works on the ports 8085, 8086, and so forth. However, this URL works only when you have PHP Runner open. So if you close the software, this URL will no longer be valid. So what do we do if we want to use our application when the PHP Runner software is closed? And this is where XAMPP that we just downloaded comes into play. So now let's go back to the software and choose an option. I have my own web server. Localhost/cars will be our URL. And for output directory, we will go to disk C. This is where XAMPP by default has a folder, htdocs, where all of our projects will reside. And I will create a new directory called cars within htdocs. So once again, C XAMPP htdocs cars is the output folder, and http/localhost/cars is the URL. Now let's build a project again and preview in the browser. Now we see that our application works, and the URL for the application on the local host is actually now running on XAMPP. So now we can close PHP run application and the URL will still work. Now let's look at a scenario where we want to upload our application to a remote web server. Let's create a new location. I will enter the username and password and select a directory where I'm going to upload the project to. And the URL for our application will be as following. Now, there is a little nuance that it's worth mentioning. If we were to use the Microsoft Access database, we would have no problem. We could upload the project with the database on the remote web server, and our job would be done. Now, since we're using MySQL, and we created the database locally, we would need to migrate the database over to our web server, and we would have to do this manually. So, how do we do this? Let's close the FTP prompt. We will get back to it. And let's go to the browser and type in localhost/phpMyAdmin. phpMyAdmin is a component that is included in XAMPP locally, which allows us to manipulate MySQL database. So now we need to select the database that we will be exporting. In our case, it's a database called cars, and we'll hit the export button. The format as SQL, and we will click Go. Now the cars.sql is the file that is created, and we can see it in our directory. Let's open the file in the Notepad++. And now you can see the script that will create the database with the tables and the data. Now we can copy the script and go to our hosting, to a control panel, and execute the database creation script. So I'm going to sign into my hosting. I will create a new MySQL database. I will create a new user for this new database. Test will be our username and password. Okay, so we have the new database and the user test. Now we can go to web admin and execute our script. I will choose the database and go back to SQL tab, paste the script, and execute it. Great, the script was executed successfully, and now we have all the tables in our database. Okay, now we can go back to PHP Runner and create a new database connection that will point to the database on a remote web server. The host will remain the same as localhost. The database name will be mydomains_cars. The user will be test, and the password will be 123456. And let's give our new connection a name, cars. Now let's build the project again and upload the files via FTP to our hosting. Depending on the size of your project and your internet connection speed, the upload itself may take some time. When you're uploading the files for the first time, it might take some time, might take a few minutes, and all consequent times you can choose a setting, upload changed files only, and it's going to upload a lot faster. While it's uploading, let's recap what we've done so far. We have installed XAMPP, which gives us the local web server and MySQL. We also created a project using MySQL as the database. We also used cars template as our template for the project. We also created a dump over database using function export. And then we recreated a database on a remote web server using our dump. Then we also created the new database server connection. And now we are uploading all of our project files via FTP to our web server. And now, as you can see, the application works on our hosting as well. I can log in as the admin into the application and see all of the tables and make some data modifications if I need to. And now our class is complete. Now you should have a much better understanding how to build a simple project using Microsoft Access or MySQL database, and how to preview it in the browser, and how to upload your application to a remote web server. Thank you.